Hi, I'm Ken Kreisler, Senior Editor of Power and Modiat Magazine, with this edition of PMY's How-To video. You know, I get a lot of fan mail every month for my maintenance Q&A column, and among the most numerous letters I get are those involving tips on bottom painting. Well, today we're here at Rex Marine up in Norwalk, Connecticut, a full-service yard and marina, and as you can see, I'm surrounded by many different kinds of boats. But there's one thing that all these boats have in common. They need their bottoms painted. We've got a project boat up in the yard waiting for us, along with some key personnel to walk us through this project. So why don't you get up there with me and we'll take a look. Joining me today is John Ludgate of Pettit Paints, and our project boat is a 38-foot Chris Craft Commander with a fiberglass hull. And as you can see, it's got years of bottom paint on it. John, what are we looking at here?
Ken, as you mentioned, we do have years of buildup. They use the traditional hard paint. And one of the problems with using a hard paint is that unless you sand it periodically, the paint will build up over time. What we're going to have to do is sand out some of these little crevices where the coating is actually popped off. We're going to use an 80 grit sandpaper and smooth this down. After we do that, the owner has elected to go with an ablative anti-fouling paint. There's three distinct advantages for an ablative. First of all, you don't get the buildup as we do here. The paint wears away like a bar of soap over time, always keeping a smooth surface. The second important feature for this owner is that he keeps his boat out of the water during the winter, so that the effectiveness of the paint will not be lowered by going in and out of the water as it would be with a traditional hard paint. And the third factor is it still gives you good performance over time. So what we're going to do is start with 80 grit sandpaper and start to smooth this surface out, and then we'll build it up with the new anti-fouling paint.
Before we begin sanding, we carefully tape the boat's waterline. Sanding should be done with a slow orbital sander for optimum control. Imperfections are filled in with a 2-part fairing compound. It will cure in a few hours, after which it can be sanded. We then apply our first coat of Ultima SR. As you can see, it's black in color as it serves as a signal coat. When visible through the blue, it's time to think about repainting. So while we're waiting for that last top coat to dry on our project boat, John's been walking around the yard inspecting some of these other vessels. Let's join him and see what he found. We're looking at a Donzi Go Fast.
This gentleman probably dry stores his boat.
I was just going to say that he
optimum performance.
Probably takes it out of the water every day.
Yeah, so if you don't have that option, you basically have to have some sort of bottom paint on there, or else you're going to be wiping it almost every day.
Is there such a thing as a kind of combination ablative, hard bottom paint application?
Well, yes there is. I mean, sometimes we use a hard across the bottom and an ablative on the waterline, because the waterline tends to be much more susceptible to getting grass growth.
Right.
So you use the ablative at the waterline, that wears off a little faster and gives your boat cleaner. But you had the hard paint on the underneath, which really is where a lot of the pounding is coming from your usage, and that's going to hold up a lot better. So it's actually, you can combine it, and that's referred to as a Carolina coat, where they actually use the two in conjunction with each other. And most boat yards are very familiar with that kind of application.
Great.
Products I brought here are the ones that we've been talking about today. The first one is the epoxy system. As we mentioned, this is either for a new boat where you want to put on a couple layers of epoxy as a preventative, or if you do indeed have gel coat blistering and you need to repair it. The Pettit Protect is the 2-part epoxy, and then we also make a fairing compound if you have to repair any dings or nicks in your hull before you apply the second coat of the epoxy. Moving on here, we have the hard anti-fouling paints as well as the ablatives, and we've gone into a lot of detail as to what's the best use for each one. Our hard anti-fouling paints, Trinidad SR and also regular Trinidad. The Trinidad SR is the dual biocide. This contains both copper, 70%, as well as ergorol, which is a new pesticide designed primarily to prevent slime, and that's SR is for slime resistance. Trinidad is the largest selling anti-fouling in the United States. That's been there for about 20 years, extremely popular and strong, and works well, especially in Florida and the Caribbean. The two ablatives, which we've been talking the most about today, is Ultima SR and Horizons. The Ultima SR, again, is the dual biocide using copper and the ergorol. SR for slime resistance. This provides all the benefits of the ablative, wears away over time, doesn't build up, allows your boat to be launched and relaunched without painting. Great for trailer boats or winter storage. The Horizons is a very similar product, although it doesn't contain the ergorol, so it doesn't have quite the slime resistance that the Ultima has. All these products can do the job, and it's just a matter of finding out which works best for your situation. If you do have any questions, you should check our website at www.pettitpaint.com, and we can guide you through the steps of finding what's the easiest and simplest way to make your boat work best.
Well, I think the owner's going to be very pleased with the way this job came out. And he probably won't have to paint for another 3 years because we applied 3 coats. I'd like to thank Rex Marine for their yard services, Pettit Paint for their product and expertise. I'm Ken Chrysler, Senior Editor of Power and Motor Yacht Magazine. See you next time on PMY's How To Video.